Greetings, Israel. This is another episode of Teo Radio. Today we're going to talk about the ADOS movement, also known as American Descendants of Slaves. As a whole, Minister Yacoba and I support this movement 150%. But we're going to refine our position concerning the movement and maybe identify some things that from a Hebrew perspective that can be adjusted. But Minister Yacoba, let's give us your input.
Yeah, so the ADOS movement, as Minister Till mentioned, we support 150+%. I agree definitely with the way Yvette Cornell has stated things. Even Tone Talks, they make very good points about it. And I agree with Yvette. You know, some people say, well, what happens if Trump gets back in office? So Trump gets back in office, but you're not getting our votes unless there's a reparations agenda. You're not getting our vote for this little sugar-coated talks that we've gotten year after year after year after year. Now, what I want to make sure I emphasize here is that Minister Taylor and I are going to discuss this more so from both, I would say both a political and a spiritual viewpoint, because you know Taylor is in ministry. And we see this as a fulfillment of prophecy. Now, many of you may not see it that way, but you have to ask yourself the question, why now? Why not last year? Why not 2018? Why is ADOS taking off now? American descendants of slaves. Why is that movement taking off now? Why are they getting recognition now, 2019, at the end of the 400-year captivity? Why now? Now, I'm of the opinion it's part of the fulfillment of the dry bones. I'm of the opinion that Ezekiel 37 is happening. As you all know, I believe that we are at the end of our 400-year captivity. Now, how that manifests, whether or not the Exodus occurs this year, or whether or not the beginning of the end of the curses occur, we shall see. Some people state it's just the end of the curses. I'm looking forward to the Exodus because, the scripture states, shall a nation be born in a day? I just happen to believe the scriptures now. Is my interpretation absolutely 100% correct? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe we got more time. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I still see signs coming to pass that it is the end of our captivity. It is the end of our 400 years. Now, as far as the ADOS movement, I think we should support it. I agree with Yvette Cornell because I like Yvette. I think Yvette is brilliant. I think she sees it the way I see it. I think that we shouldn't play this whole narrative that they gave us about our ancestors dying for us to have the right to vote. No, our ancestors died for us to have freedom. Okay, and so they need to restore what was taken. Now, do I think this movement will succeed? Now, this is a tough, difficult question because it depends on of your viewpoint. If you look at it from the viewpoint of, let's say, just a physical political movement, it will not succeed. And I say that because we've been trying for over 400 years, first to get free, and then to get justice, to get reparations, to get that 40 acres and a mule that we never get, to get recognition for what they've done to us and we've never gotten it, to get that apology from them that we were supposed to get that we never received. So now all of a sudden, will ADOS accomplish that? And I say not in human effort. Now, let's look at it from a spiritual viewpoint. Will ADOS succeed? I say yes. Oh, that sounds contradictory now. I say yes because from a spiritual perspective, it is the move of Father Yah. From a spiritual perspective, this is the beginning of the shaking. This is the rattling of the bones, the continual rattling of the bones. It is to recognize that we are here. It is to recognize that we are a people. It is to recognize that we know who we are and we are conscious. Now, does Yvette recognize that we're Israel? Maybe, I don't know. Does Tone recognize that we're Israel? I don't know. But the thing I do know is that they're fulfilling prophecy. Maybe they realize that, maybe not. So if they're fulfilling prophecy, then this will succeed because it is a move of God. Now, what I would like to do is add to the ADOS movement. And, people are going to say, well, Minister Teo and Minister Yacobo, what do you mean add to the ADOS movement? And I'm going to get Minister Teo's input after this. What I would like to see is a WDOS movement, which is a world descendant of slaves movement. Now, I'm not taking away from the concentration of African or American descendant of slaves movement, because I know that's to concentrate on what we get here in America for what they did to us in America, the reparations they owe us for what they've done and what they continue to do here to us in America. I understand that. And this is in no way to negate the ADOS movement and the specificity of the ADOS movement. But the WDOS movement is a call to all of the scattered tribes of Israel globally, right? Now, some of you are going to call them descendants of African slaves, right? This is a call to all of those people, whether you be in Britain, whether you be in Haiti, whether you be in Australia, any of these nations where we went into captivity, to do the same thing as ADOS. So if you're in Britain, it's going to be BDOS, Britain Descendants of Slaves Movement. We want our money. If you're in Australia, it's going to be Australia Descendants of Slaves Movement. We want our money. If you're in Spain, Portugal, Brazil, we want our money. Make the call globally. If these jokers don't give you reparations, you don't vote for them. Same thing with the United Nations. We need to go after them as well. Because guess what? That is supposed to be the unifying center for all of these nations, even though it's controlled by Western nations, and the dumb people in the other countries give all their power to this stupid thing and they get no benefit from it. But hey, I digress. My point being is ADOS should not stand alone. ADOS should be the beginning of a world movement, WDOS. And under WDOS should be all of these subcategories. Brazil, descendants of slaves. France, descendants of slaves. Minister Teo.
Okay. So I support what Antonio Moore and Yvette are doing. And, I think it's necessary. I think, we have to basically say, you can't play us anymore. We're not going to be your suckers anymore. You can't just push our buttons, make us fearful because someone like Trump is in office or whoever comes next. I say, look, if it's Hitler, put him in office if you don't give us what we want. I mean, the bottom line is unity now, and we have to think unity. I mean, we've been separated by our, let's say, house slaves, and they've been put in charge as the voice of Israel. And we have to cast them people out. So if those people are talking politics as usual, if those people are talking about Obama or Kamala, they got to go. They have to go. We're not playing that game no more. If we don't get what we want, you are out. Don't speak for us. And we have to be in unity. I'm going to tell you, before I even knew who we were, I stopped voting in the federal elections, in the presidential elections, because I realized it was a game. I realized we never got what we wanted, no matter how we voted. They pushed our fear button, made us afraid of who was coming in office, and said, surely you don't want this guy in office. Vote for this person. Vote for Hillary, right? And Hillary supports the woman who wants to annihilate the slaves or the Hebrews, right? She supports the abortion clinics, right? Margaret Sanger, the one who said that the Negro needs to be exterminated. This is who Hillary supports, but then our Democratic liberal people say, vote for Hillary because surely you don't want Trump. I say, I don't care. If you don't give us what we want and what we need, because the bottom line is today, people, we are going to be dead last worldwide. We have been played. No matter where we are worldwide, we are last. We are the servant class. We have been designated the servant class to every nation. But we are royal priesthood, meant to be rulers and kings and priests. No more. We don't play that game no more. So I support what Antonio and Yvette are doing. We all need to get on board. But at the same time, I support what Minister Yacoba said, world descendants of slaves, or let's say, depending on what country you're in, world Brazilian descendants of slaves, right? And you deal with your issues there because they owe you. They owe us. This ain't something in the past. Everything that happened to our ancestors reverberate down to this day, and we are impacted from all of that. We are victims of all of that. Not just what our ancestors did to us and passed down those bad inheritances, right? Like if your dad beat you because he got beat by his slave master, you beat your kid. And so all that reverberated. They owe you just for that. But they also owe you for the mind manipulation and the mind abuse, the mental abuse of our people for these past 400 years, including Jim Crow, including redlining, including what they did to do to us today, including the shooting of us in the street. We have to step away and say, we're not playing your game no more. Let it all go down if you don't give us what we want. We're not giving you our vote. We don't play that game no more. Unity is the only way we're going to get out of this. And so let's say the Jewish converts, if we want to call them that, they are more united than anybody. And if you go against one of them, you go against all of them. And so they have a unity of support for their cause, even though we know it's Esau, right? But this is Esau uniting as one and ruling the world today. And we have to be united in the same way, right? And so if we don't get heard, if we don't get reparations, look, it might be expensive, but the debt is owed, period. And I say, you want to start giving us reparations? Here's the very first place you should start. Wipe away all student loan debt of the Negro. Period. Forever. Wipe it all out. 2, lost my thought. Yeah, but wipe out the student loan debt forever. Yeah, and wipe out federal taxes, right? The federal tax is illegal anyway, right? If you look at the Constitution and the old government laws, it's illegal. But despite that, as far as your reparation payment to true Israel, wipe out any taxes. Don't tax us ever again. Let us keep our money. That don't hurt you. That's not straight out of your pocket. But it's a way to start making amends, right? And the set-asides, you need to give them back. And you need to set it aside for ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. Because right now, the set-aside goes to the white female, and then she lets her white husband run it, and she gets government set-aside. That's criminal, but that's what happens today. Minister Yacoba.
So what I would like to do also is basically give a caveat to Yvette and to Antonio, just to let them know that the sophistication of our enemy. And I'm sure some of you all probably realize this, but I don't hear it discussed. So basically, what happens is, as you all know, when a movement like this starts to take off, there's a counterintelligence move. Everyone knows about COINTELPRO, how the FBI may try to make sure there's no Messiah figure arises. This still occurs. And so what happens is usually, my brother and I, we come from a political family. Okay, we understand politics. We've been in politics. And so what happens is someone might win a particular seat or win, some kind of level of authority in the governmental system, and the federal government is going to come after you. Now, you may not have done anything, and they don't have to prove that you've done anything. What they do is they tarnish your name. So they either get you to resign or they come against you before the election and tarnish your name so that you can't win. So you need to be careful of that, because right now, the figureheads of this movement is Yvette and Antonio. So I ask you all to be careful and to be wise as serpents, but gentle as a dove, because they're going to try to take out the heads. So prediction would be, one, they come after Yvette for something like taxes. Maybe your taxes are cool, but they're going to say you owe something. Or they're going to come after you some other kind of way to tarnish your name. Same thing, Antonio. They're going to come after you and tarnish your name to destroy the leadership of this movement. Once they destroy the leadership of the movement, the followers usually fall off. Okay, so, and look, I'm going to be straight up. Most of our people are not sophisticated. Okay, so if there's no leadership, they're going to fall off. And I'm not trying to be mean, family. I'm just being real. Just like I was listening to Yvette's show, and that guy called in and said, I talked to a guy at the UN and he said, y'all won't get reparations because y'all from here. Y'all the original inhabitants of this land. And I like the fact that Yvette checked his tail with that BS, right? We tired of that stuff. Y'all need to keep that little stupid, we are native Indians, we from this land crap to yourself. Ain't nobody buying it. And anybody with a little brain matter who can open a book and do a little bit of research can find out that all of that stuff is crap. And they take a picture of a black Native American Indian, supposedly, and say, look, see, we were here already. We were already Indians. Anyway, so, not taking into consideration the fact that a lot of our people were slaves to Cherokee Indians and all these other Indian tribes.
And that the camera was invented in the late 1800s.
That too. So, the silliness has to stop, people. Now, I'm of the opinion that a lot of you people are COINTELPRO disinformation agents, just like some of the camps, right? Their goal is to either lead you into Talmudism or to just cause enough confusion that those who want to look into whether or not we're Israel won't look into it, because they see a bunch of guys dressed in costumes and cussing people on the street. So they're not going to even look into it. Now, I don't really care that they do that, because it's not going to work, because it's a movement of Father Yah. It's a movement of God. So if the awakening is truly a movement of God, which I know it is, then they can't stop it, even though they're trying to. Okay, but I wanted to make sure that Yvette and Antonio understand that they're going to make moves against this, because now you're getting recognition. Now you're getting followers. Okay, and they're going to make moves to try to stop you. Now, how do you insulate yourselves? I don't know. I mean, for me, it would be prayer. That's how I would do it. And I wouldn't do anything that is obviously, or let's say on the gray line of legality, whatever that is.
Well, here's the thing. I think the way to protect them from this is your support of them, right? Your vocal support. So let's say they go after them. You make yourself vocal and visible, right? I'm not saying protest, right? We don't do that. But what I'm saying is you make yourself vocal and say, this is our leadership, if that's who you choose to lead this ADOS movement. And you say, we support them, we know who they are, they're credible and quality people, quality individuals, and we reject the fabrication that you're trying to present. Numbers will make a difference, right? And then, if it ever go to court, right, you have to have a certain percentage of your peers. So ideally, there'll be enough awakened Hebrews on those on the jury to defend them and protect them. So, part of it is whether or not you stay silent when they do come after you. If you're vocal enough, they'll back off, right? Esau's a coward.
And they already started this mess where they're trying to say that the ADOS movement was created by Russian bots. How stupid do they think we are? That we believe that the ADOS movement was started by Russian bots. Come on now, people. Really? Really? Come on. But they will try anything. They will say anything to discredit this movement.
You know what I like about that?
Huh?
What I like about the fact that they had some black people come out and say they're Russian bots, it reveals to us who's not on our side. Right?
That's true. Because
you playing the Democratic liberal card, right? The people that never supported us, never cared about us, and you're pushing their agenda and their verbiage. That just exposes you. So I'm happy for that part.
Well, the whole thing though is this: if they remove the leadership, will the movement stop? That's my question, right? Is it enough for them to cast shadows or concern about this movement that most are going to start walking away and not pursue it? Right now, like I say for myself, I think it's a movement of God. I think it's a fulfillment of prophecy. Whether or not the ones leading it realize this, that it will, in the end, culminate in the fulfillment of the second Exodus, which is going to be the Exodus from the land of our captivity with wealth. And that's my opinion about it. And we shall see what happens. I still see prophecy being fulfilled that portends the second Exodus. And I know other people think otherwise. And some people think that the idea that our captivity may end this year, can cause deception. I don't see how. If it don't happen, it's like every other thing. It doesn't happen and you keep moving on. But I'm seeing things that fulfills prophecy. And I think this is part of the rattling of the bones. Now, like we were saying in the beginning, I think this movement should be bigger than ADOS. Now, not to say for Americans that they should not concentrate on American DOS. I think Americans should concentrate on American DOS. And I'm emphasizing that. But I think it should be a world movement, WDOS, right? And under WDOS is American DOS, Brazil DOS, French DOS, Britain DOS, right? This is what we should do. We need to grow this thing. We need to make it a global call because according to the scriptures, there is a second Exodus. And I believe we're in this time. And I believe this is the fulfillment of it or part of the fulfillment of it. Now, granted, you can have somebody come on. Well, family, you need to watch out for this ADOS movement. Well, family, because you know that things like this, they use that to deceive us, family, so we have to be careful. That's what you're going to hear, that type of mess, right? Regardless, it's just a movement. And it's a movement to right a wrong. I'm calling to right a wrong. That's what they're saying. They're saying, I'm trying to right a wrong. You owe us. Pay what you owe. That's what they're saying. And we're not waiting another 400 years to get it either. And see these houses? You know what I'm about to say, family. You see these houses? You know what I'm about to say. They don't speak for us. They don't speak for us.
Let me say it. The house niggas.
Okay, he said it. They don't speak for us. And we're not supporting them. We're not voting for them. And we're not following the Democratic ticket anymore. And so when I was young, everyone followed a ticket. We're not doing that anymore because you know what? All they do is compromise the leadership and bring the votes the way they want. We're not falling for it anymore. We're too sophisticated.
So my question is, what is success? Because to me, even if we don't get reparations, right, which I'm not expecting them to give, right, I'm not expecting them to acknowledge the evil they've done to our people. But to me, the success is going to be the unity that comes out of it, right? The oneness, right? The solidarity among Israel for a change, right? We've let the house Negroes divide us, and so now we need to come together worldwide for one cause, right? And that's to make right what was done to us 400 years ago.
So here's my thing too. You're going to have the two types of black people. And I'm going to give this example since Yvette and them discussed it. You have the two type of black people. You have the Monique and you have the Steve Harvey. Are they both wrong? Personally, I think Monique is correct. Monique is taking the high ground. She's taking the moral ground and she's taking the righteous ground. Now, Steve Harvey is taking, let's say, the reality ground. And you know, you all gonna think I'm coming out of I'm speaking out of both sides of my neck, but I'm not. Just wait. So Steve Harvey is saying, look, I'm looking after Steve Harvey. I'm taking care of myself. You need to take care of yourself, Monique, because nobody gonna take care of you but you. That's what Steve is saying. And Steve is like, forget the rest of them, care about your own. Now, from a fleshly, physical viewpoint, Steve is right. You know why? I'm going to tell you why Steve is right from a fleshly, physical viewpoint. Because when they come after Steve, and they come after his money, and they come and destroy his character, you're not going to be there. You're not going to support him. You're not going to say, oh, Steve, they're wrong. I mean, oh, world, they're wrong. Support Steve. They're lying. They're crucifying Steve. No, a lot of you all will turn on Steve. And Steve knows this. So Steve, like, I'm going to take care of the Harveys because none of them people going to take care of me. I've seen what they've done with Bill Cosby. Ain't none of us support him. Most of the people turned against him. Now, I'm not saying whether or not Bill Cosby did anything. I'm just saying that he had no support. So they see this, and they're not willing to risk their careers and their money for you because you're not loyal. And you're split on many different factions. You're split on the African movement. You're split on the Native American Indian movement. You're split on the Hebrew Israelite movement. You're split on the, whatever movement it is, we're split. So why would somebody stand for you? Now, back to what I was saying. Was Monique right? Yes. Monique is taking the honorable route. She's standing for righteousness. Now, Monique is getting hit by arrows. Now, how many of us are standing for Monique? Not many. Which is why Steve is telling her, look, you need to look out for you because our people don't take care of our people. And that's a fact. Now, let's go back to a show I did a few months ago where I talked about we need to sacrifice ourselves sometimes for the community. I know that the community is not going to stand by me. I know that black folks don't know how to unify. I know black folks are broken and infiltrated. And the odds are I'm going to be standing out here with a flag all by myself. Because when they come against us, they're going to flee. What happened when they came for the Lord Jesus? Yeshua? Where were the apostles? And they loved him. They ran. It's human nature. But you got to put the community before the individual. Remember that? You got to put the community before the individual. So if I put the community before the individual, that means I might get hit by arrows and I'm going to be standing there all by myself. I might be Martin Luther King standing there giving a speech for the community and I get a bullet. But in order to succeed, you got to put the community before yourself. Now, if we have more people that put the community before themselves, then we have a lot of people standing together as opposed to one person standing by themselves. Now, in my opinion, the only way to get a person or a group of people to put the community before themselves is to really understand who you are. Because if the American descendants of slaves recognize that they are the true Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, that the reason they're in the situation they are in is because of the Deuteronomy 28 curses, and that their only salvation is in Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, then we find an identity. Think about it. And I'm talking to those out there who don't recognize us as anything other than descendants of African slaves. Why you? Why did they pick you? Why did they decide to destroy your name? Why did they move you halfway around the world and remove you from your families, remove your heritage and your identity? Was it just because you were slaves? No, you could have been enslaved and still knew who you were. It was because they wanted you to forget who you were. As Psalm 83 states, to move you far away from your land. They don't want you going back to Israel. And if you don't believe us, maybe you should do a little bit of research to see that historically, and I'm not talking biblically, because some of you all aren't believers. I'm talking historically that we are the Hebrews of the Bible, the Israelites of the Bible. And if that's the case, then you can find out who you are, because an American descendants of slaves is not going to unite us. See, my parents and everyone else, they were coming out of Jim Crow, segregation, all these type of things, right? They grew up under persecution and oppression. They had more of an idea of what it was like to be a slave. Now we have a modicum of freedom, right? But now we don't know who we are because they let a few of the house Negroes get up in the top, make some money, and keep the rest of us under control. So now you're like, well, I'm going for my ring, my gold ring. I'm going for my gold ring. Forget you. I'm going for mine. Forget you. I'm going to get mine. I'm Steve Harvey. I got mine. Forget the rest of y'all. Every man for himself. And that's how we are today. Even in our own families, immediate families. Some of us are successful and some of us aren't. And the successful ones never reach back and try to help the others up. Why? Because if I try to help them up, they might pull me down. If I try to help them up, they might take advantage of me. But once again, put the community before the individual, which means I might have to make myself vulnerable. And to make yourself vulnerable means you have to have something more than yourself. To make yourself vulnerable, you have to have the spirit of Father Yah in you. Because I'm not going to sacrifice me and mine for you, because I don't know you. Say, we all black though. We all descendants of slaves. But I don't know you. And when I try to help people in the past, what did y'all do? Y'all stab me in the back. And that's how we do. That's how we do, because guess what? They're going to come and buy you off. And you're going to step over me so that you can get on top. And where? We start at the starting line again. Because even though we were moving together, they paid you off. Or they compromised you. And then you turned on me and you turned on the movement. Or you turned on Yvette and you turned on the movement. This is how our people are. I've seen it over and over again. The enemy is complex and very shrewd, very evil, very intelligent, and our people are literally sheep. And when we try to tell you this is what they're doing, you don't care. And when they come after us, you don't care. But my point is this, and I went through all of this to say this, that the success of ADOS is going to be in Christ. The success of ADOS is going to be in being who you were created to be, and that is kings and priests. The success is in reaching out to those Gentiles who do recognize who you are and who are willing to help you, not pushing them away, but embracing them, because some of them strangers are coming back with us to the land. I don't care what you campers say, that's what the scriptures teach. Some of them are coming back with us to the land. And you got to be bigger. Tail?
Yeah. So to sum that up, unity, solidarity is the key. We have to put the community before the individual. It is the only way to survive, right? You have to survive as a pack, as a herd. Otherwise, individually, the lions pick off the stragglers. So you have to be united as one for one cause. We can't be separated by the Democrats and being played by our house Negroes who are meant to keep us in the status quo. Now, I wanted to bring up the African Union and Africa. Africa is Wakanda. They have all the resources. They should be wealthier than any nation on the planet, but they are the poorest in the world, and they have the poorest people, even though they have all the resources. So that implies leadership is betraying the masses. Once again, even in Africa, you all have to start thinking about the community over the individual. And if you have to get rid of your leadership, get rid of them and put the community first. And when it comes to African Union, I'm saying too, we want a seat at the table. The diaspora wants a seat at the table, and you need to put that out there. And so we want a diaspora parliament, right? And that diaspora parliament should consist of descendants of slaves from every nation. Canada, America, Brazil, England, France, worldwide. This is where we need to go, people. Unity. The community before the individual. Anything else, Jacoba?
So we're going to sum it up with this, family. The dry bones are making noise. That's what's happening. Some of you all don't see it. And as I said, you're going to have other people come and kick back at it. I don't care. I see prophecy being fulfilled. And I think we should be better people, a more united people, a stronger people. And we need to demand our reparations. And I agree with Yvette. Ain't no waiting another 400 years. Ain't waiting another 1 year. We're done with it. We want our money. You owe us trillions. Don't give me this 100 billion BS. Trillions. At least $6 trillion, right? And not globally. We want our money. And look, family, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to leave it at that. Don't fall for this whole game they're going to play about Democrat and Republican. And if you don't vote Democrat, then you're going to put Trump back in office. Let Trump be in office. Trump is doing more to shake up this country than anybody. Is Trump a racist? Yes, he's a racist. But guess what? You've seen more things come up in discussions happening since Trump been in office than under Obama and Bush and everyone else, right? We having this conversation, and I'm sure that part of it is because we see the injustice being done on a magnitude that we haven't seen since, the 50s. And that's what they want to bring us back to, is the 50s. But you know what? I'm glad Trump is there, because now we're having a conversation. Now, will you do anything? Look, family, let's just sum it up like this. Our vote is for sale. And the cost of our votes is reparations. The cost of our vote is reparations. We are here to negotiate. You want to get in office, pay us. Tail.
I'm in 1,000% agreement with that statement. That's the end of our show. And if you like what we do, support us at Patreon, patreon.com/TEO TW. Peace and blessing, Israel. Your captivity is ending.